welcome to Drive Time Podcast special summer spotlight series highlighting members from the class of 2023. The 2023 class started out in online classes during the pandemic in 2020, transitioning to in-person, and now graduating. I'm Caitlin McMahon, a fellow 2023 graduate who is guest hosting this special series. And I'd love to introduce our guest today. So meet FEMBA 2023, Adam Windish. Adam was nominated by our class to tell his story. He has a successful career at Disney and is currently the Senior Manager, Revenue Management and Analytics. We're so excited to hear Adam's story.
All right, thanks for having me, Caitlin. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, personally, I have worked with Adam for obviously we're in FEMBA 2023 together, but we also got to be in the same learning team for a year. And during course, we kept getting put on the same team with each other. So Adam is probably the hardest worker I've ever met, and I'm excited for everyone to hear his career journey and time at Anderson. So let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up and how did that influence your journey?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So I grew up on a farm in central Illinois. My whole life, I would say there was a bit of a yearning for the city. As a kid, there was no neighbors really around that I could ride my bike to or anything. And I always just wanted to live somewhere close where I could walk around and talk to others. But the other way that I would say that it's kind of influenced my direction in life is being the son of a farmer. There was just this work ethic that I saw my dad demonstrate and the way my mom conducted herself as well. And it was really, I put a lot of, personal satisfaction and importance in life on the work that I do. And that's kind of, put a high emphasis on education and getting a good career and really getting a lot of value out of the work that I do, personal value. And I feel like I've taken that through school and through my career.
Well, I've definitely seen that reflected in you through school when I was working with you. That's a great life lesson from your family. So after growing up on the farm, you went to Bradley University, right? And then you actually double majored. What did you double major in, and what made you decide to go those routes?
Yeah, that's right. I went to a place called Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. Really, really great school. I double majored in math and in music. I was always interested in music growing up. I was in band and in chorus, and there was actually a time there where I was aiming to be a music educator. And as I was getting near the end of high school, it dawned on me that wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I also didn't know what I did want to do. I applied to a lot of the schools around in the area, a lot of, some of the bigger schools in the Midwest, and I kind of settled on engineering. Okay, that seems like that's pretty fun. So I actually started at a different school, and I went there for a few weeks, and in auditioning for their university choir, I realized I wanted to study music. Like I had made a bit of a mistake. This particular university actually didn't have a music program. So a few weeks into my first semester, just starting college, I actually started calling other universities and asking if I could transfer at semester. And Bradley got me with the head of admissions that day, and they said, if you're in class tomorrow, then you're admitted this semester. So
wow.
At this point, it was, in the afternoon, I went to the student services at this university I was going to and canceled my enrollment, packed up my car and drove back home. And the next day I was in class at Bradley University in music class. And I think that was really the best decision I've ever made. As you'll find through the rest of this, I didn't pursue a career in music, but it really is a personal passion of mine. And just, I think the qualities that I like in myself as a professional really stem from the collaborative environment that music has. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's amazing. I love that. And I mean, you did go into entertainment still, so there is an aspect that coordinates with where your career ended up, you know, in a way.
Yeah,
I don't really know too much about music. I'm not the best with that, so I could be completely off base there, but it feels like it's there is some type of connection with where you ended up going in your career too.
Yeah, I would say that, in general, I'm interested in creative spaces and in the arts. And, I grew up in the Midwest, and we would travel to Disney World for vacation each year. And I knew, in high school, really this is, the defining reason for why I didn't go into music education and went into something else is I knew I wanted to work for Disney. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't exactly sure in what capacity or what I needed to study to do it. That might explain why I studied a few things. But ultimately, I knew at the end of college, I only applied to one place, and it was to Walt Disney World in Orlando. I ended up moving into leaning more on the math background in the computer science side of that. I ended up starting as an intern in Orlando, working in planning and forecasting. My first role was as the intern was kind of working on the food and beverage line of business. But then as I became an analyst, moving on full time to the team, I started supporting the merchandise and imaging. And I ended up working in Orlando for about 3 years.
That's amazing. And I love how throughout your story so far, you could really see that you followed your interests and made what you wanted to happen a reality in every step of the way. And so we talked about, you started talking about how you started at Disney as an intern. Can you walk us through a little bit about your Disney journey, and then maybe a little bit more about why you chose entertainment? I know we touched on it already, but we can go into that too as you talk through your journey there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tackle the entertainment one first. I wouldn't say inherently I was targeting entertainment. I was targeting Disney. And that holds true, with the whole reason I, went to graduate school, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. But so I worked those 3 years in Disney, and I really got a sense of, it's difficult transition for anybody into the workforce. And then I was sort of wrestling with the, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, right? I was looking at music, then I was looking at engineering. I landed in this business analytics world, really, and I found out that I really liked it, and explored my options a little bit in Florida. And what I found was I really just, honestly, the weather is the primary driver, but the culture of the arts is what I was kind of looking for. So I told my leaders that I'd like to see if I could move to California. And in a few months, we were able to make that happen. And I, really appreciate for that. And since I've moved to California, I've been supporting the attendance planning efforts for Disneyland. Essentially, we're forecasting how many people want to come and how many people will be there each day to help, the business plan for everything that comes with attendance, staffing and food and ordering all the supplies and everything like that. So I would say Disney is a great employer in that they offer tuition reimbursement. And so coming into Disney, I always knew I wanted to do some form of grad school. I wasn't actually sure what that was. As I think a little bit of context at that time in my career, as I was looking at grad school, I was a senior analyst and just beginning to head into management. And a lot of that shaped, I've only kind of known this one area, which was kind of like this analytics area. And so the appeal of the MBA was to really branch out and see about a lot of different things. You know, working in a company as big as Disney, your knowledge is very, very deep, but you have very little breadth of work. So I was kind of in that silo. The beauty of the program is that I grew in my career as I was sort of consuming all of those concepts in core and in electives. And interestingly also is, we were the COVID class, right?
Yeah.
As you stated up front. Well, Disneyland, which I supported, was closed for 14 months, kind of at the start of our program. So a bit of a timeline of things, right? We got accepted to the program right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
By the time we started classes, we were 6 months or so into the closure of Disneyland. And I was essentially through our full first year of the program before Disneyland reopened. And so as you can imagine, we were doing, it was like operating a brand new business. It was a 65, 66, 67, something like that year-old entity at the time, but we were treating it like it was a startup. And having that foundational knowledge from the core courses was, I felt, really gave me both the language to have the discussion with the other, my collaborators in some of those conversations, and just the confidence to put forth new ideas of how we could approach things. And that, I'm sure you hear it from a lot of the folks that went through this full-time program or the fully employed program, is that really the best component of it is that you get to take what you learn and apply it immediately. And I found that to be exceptionally true in my case.
That's amazing, because I honestly forgot that it feels so long ago now, because Disney is, I feel like there's millions of people going every day again. You see it all the time on your social media accounts, and you almost forget that it was closed for our whole core year. And when it reopened, it was like, okay, so how many people do you let in? What are the basics of running the park again? And you would read about it all the time, and you were on the front lines dealing with it in Anderson. It was nice because you got to apply what you're learning to be able to make a bigger impact in like that decision making.
Yeah, that's right. And in that, my role kind of expanded, post opening, and I also had a promotion while I was in the program. And through all those things, I was able to, it's almost like starting new jobs continually. And I was kind of in the same lane. Take those foundational learnings and really set a strategic approach to how I want to tackle these things. And I'll never have experienced what it would have been like had I not gone to grad school, but knowing, my thought process at the time, trying to synthesize the materials, and my ultimate plan of attack in doing those things, the FEMBA program was invaluable, really. Yeah,
I feel like when you go to FEMBA, people are always asking, right? Like, are you an enhancer? Are you a pivoter? What's your goals? But this is like a real great example for anybody considering the program or that's in it right now, of enhancing, just from being and absorbing the knowledge that you're in your classes and bringing it right back to the workplace. It really is invaluable for that company. Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk a little bit about my, going in, was I an enhancer or a pivoter?
Yeah.
I would say it's a little bit of both, more on the enhancement side. Like I said, I knew I wanted to stay with Disney. That was my target. It's still the case. But I had at that time that limited knowledge of what was out there, and beyond my analytical skill set, what were the skills I could lean on for a career? And I think the sort of narrative that I had for myself going into grad school is that it would be the opportunity to pivot to, maybe say, the studio side, learn a little bit more about marketing, because there were more opportunities on the marketing side there, both in finance or analytics. And I think having that plan, even though, I kind of quickly realized, oh, I'm actually really happy on the path that I'm on as I'm exposed to different opportunities, is, it helped me to, how am I going to focus on the myriad options you have to explore while you're at school? So I would say enhancement was more so the route that I was going. And then, after the fact, now that I'm, where I'm at and we finished the program, that enhancement is where I ended up.
That's amazing. And I feel like, it's such a great journey that you had at Disney. While we're talking about the program, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about your experience at Anderson, and did you get involved in anything, capstone projects, and you could talk a little bit about that for current students so they could get some perspective of what was important to you, what kind of helped you learn lessons throughout this Anderson journey, because it's another journey on its own outside of just the career trajectory, in my opinion.
It is, and I mean those myriad options I talked about, you can see it in the application process, or if you're an admitted student, you can see it in the materials that you're being distributed, but there's almost more even than is advertised. And what all of us quickly found is that there was less time than we realized to tackle all the things. Let me talk real quick about what I did not choose to spend my time on. So because I knew I wanted to stay with Disney, I did not focus on, recruiting was not on my mind. I did not use the on-campus services, never used the career services. Some might say that was a mistake, who knows? But that was my choice, and I'm glad I made that choice. What I focused on instead was really extracting the most I could from the classes.
Yeah.
And I would say my approach to the classes was not in the, let's say, nose in the book style. I wasn't concerned about grades necessarily, or, the assignments, mastering the assignments. It was just trying to really extract the course concepts as well as I could, internalize them and apply them. And I think that helped that helped get the practical application out of the program, of course. I would like to talk also a little bit about the GAP program, because I think it is one of the things that makes the FEMBA program so great in UCLA and offering that. I had the privilege to work for a nonprofit in this program. We had a group of 6 rather than the normal group of 5. And we got to do, it wasn't actually a market entry strategy, which is what many of the GAP programs
Interesting.
It was more research-based and there was a business plan presented with opportunities, but, and it was actually a US company as well, not an international company. So if anyone's familiar with the GAP program, I've kind of broken like the 3 main pillars of what GAP is. But, I had a close group of friends, I would say, and we all had similar interests, and we were all impressed with each other's performance, right, as a student to that date for various reasons. And part of GAP is, you assemble your own team, and you want to assemble a team of people with different skill sets. And I feel like we landed on the perfect group, and we landed on a group that was really excited about this particular GAP project. Like I said, it's a nonprofit. I'm in the conservation space. I won't go more specific than that. Just the experience of doing this monumental effort in 6 months is in and of itself, it's a whole education, right? That could be just a degree in its own. But the thing that really, at least for me, it was so unlike anything I've ever done, right? I'm working in a company that's, supporting the Disney parks, which is over 60 years old, very specific business problems, very specific role that I have. We were kind of in the great unknown with this project, and I think that's probably similar for most teams. And people assigned to roles or functions they're not normally, used to doing or not proficient at, but that's what they're interested in, or even, not necessarily interested in, but the work's got to get done.
Yeah.
Going through all the stages of that project and, facing the interpersonal challenges, I'm sure Matt Gorlick's name comes up a lot in these, but, he's sort of a head of student development for Anderson students, but he says up front, everybody's going to go through this, this storming, and, you're not always going to see eye to eye. And we're like, oh, that's not going to happen to us. And
yeah, it's not us.
sure enough, some of the best students in our cohort and closest friends too. And you do indeed experience some of the turbulent times, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. That is the learning experience. And the beauty of it is on the other side, just having gone through that and none of that, none of that sticking to relationships, right? Just building stronger relationships. But it's just such a, the finishing of that GAP project really felt like the graduation to me.
I agree.
That was a special day.
It was that the presentation day with the reception after really was it felt like I did this program. I made it. But I totally agree with you with the GAP experience. When you're in a group, you always will have issues that come up, and it almost is the learning experience, besides obviously making business plan and doing all the work, but being able to work through those conflicts and the difference of opinion to get to the other side and get some, produce something without having lingering feelings about, of tension, is a skill set you need in your career and in life. And so it's cool that it's like a safe space too. You're with people that and you're able to really work on those skill sets during the capstone.
And, I'll add to that, which is, I think the generalization for the program is there's nothing like an MBA in that everybody's coming from somewhere different and they're exiting to somewhere different.
Yeah.
And I think, that's where a ton of the value is in just crossing paths with these people. You see the other paths that exist. In my particular case, it shed new light on, oh, wow, I'm actually, very happy with the path that I'm on and, what I do and kind of the career that I've set myself on. But you just never get a chance in life like that. And that's taking it down to GAP. Everybody's coming from some different place. Everyone has different expectations. And that's the reality of life and of certainly of a professional career. And it's just a microcosm of that playing out in a short amount of time. In summary, probably the biggest thing I would say, the experience of the FEMBA program are those different people coming into your life and a long 3 years to learn from them. Yeah.
And I love what you said about prioritizing what Anderson offers for your specific situation. So for you, you knew you wanted to stay at Disney, so you didn't need to spend hours and hours with the Career Center. Like pivoters will probably be more in the recruiting career center, different types of, club events that you need to take advantage of, but there's different ways of doing the program based on what you're trying to get out of it. There's a lot it offers. I don't think I even could have scratched the surface with what you could do.
Yeah, the amount of clubs is, the possibilities are endless, really.
Yeah.
I did go for, I won't disclose the club because I didn't end up spending a ton of time, but going in, I had this idea, I'm going to invest my time in this club. I actually put it in my application of I'm joining this school because this club. And that's really what I thought. And then once we actually got into studying, it's like, oh, I don't have time to go to this event. And we had the great fortune of doing it over Zoom, whereas
Yeah.
other classes, they actually have to travel to campus. I don't know how people do it, but I mean, I'm happy for them for those that are able. The other thing that I would say outside of the many choices you have and of the career services, what I really got a joy out of seeing, this happened to several students, several friends of mine, is they kind of went in with a pivoting mindset. They knew they weren't fully happy with what they were doing, but they didn't know what they were going into. But a huge amount of people really got sucked in and convinced by this, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed watching those who went down that path find that interest, kind of do that, the other program, not the GAP program, but the BCO program, working on those and the different case competitions they can bring it to. And, I'm seeing on social media or on Slack, our classmates are launching their business ventures that they developed in school. And that's a really exciting path that many of our classmates took.
It's really incredible to watch. And for anyone who doesn't know what BCO means, business creation option, and GAP is global access program. Both of them are the capstone programs that I'm sure all over the Anderson website. I haven't looked in a while, but you can read more about those there too, if you're interested. But yeah, it's really cool to see everybody's businesses coming to life, and like they've been working on so hard for what I think it starts in over like the first summer, summer of core of FEMBA, and it's all coming together now. But I also love that you mention everybody else, because it really is a culture of being so excited for your classmates. No matter what path they all choose, you're very excited, and we're all like wishing for everybody's success. And it's the coolest part about being at Anderson is seeing everybody's different career journeys and learning from each other and what they decide to do.
Yeah, I think that is, I've only gone to Anderson. I haven't gone to the other business schools. The reputation that Anderson has is the collaborative environment, the shared success. I very much found that to be true.
Yeah, me too.
That is exactly what I was looking for. And I don't know a ton of other students from other business schools, but some of my professors who may have taught at other business schools would often give the reputation of those other institutions versus ours at Anderson's. And a lot of reaffirming statements, I would say. Again, I just really, really appreciated that collaborative environment. I think that ties back into what I was mentioning about, growing up in music, and that really is what it's all about, working together for a shared vision.
Yeah, and I think that's like what you do in your job. You're working together, you're working with people for a shared vision of the parks all coming, being able to organize all those people and then to put it in very plain terms, but then also to at Anderson, where you're, being able to work with people, and we work together on teams, and it's nice because everyone has different things going on, but everyone's very understanding and like wants everyone to be successful in all their different endeavors, even when we're in a group together and we have to get this project done. So it's nice to see that, especially from a part-time program. And Adam was the best with all of that. He'd always support whenever someone had something going on.
Maybe second best to Caitlin, because I was it's uncommon, I would say, to be paired with somebody for 2 quarters. Was it 3 quarters? No, 3 quarters. Yeah, 3 is unheard of. We, I was very, very pleased to have Caitlin in my group for those 3 quarters. There's a bit of a luck of the draw in the group assignments, but I mean, luck honestly, anybody you'd be stuck with everybody's qualified to be there. And I would have benefited from being in a group with any of them. I was very pleased with all the groups that I had in my time throughout Anderson. And I think it's exactly what Caitlin was mentioning, where people are very understanding of the different things that you have going on. And another theme that I noticed is, there's some focus on, we want to make sure we get, a good grade on this. I wouldn't say grade is the focus, but just more, showing that we mastered this concept. But I would say what was more prevalent was people willing to step aside to give those who wanted to build a new skill the opportunity to do so. And then the opposite too, when it's inevitable that you have multiple deliverables at the same time across different classes, and you work in the same group across the classes. And so sometimes everyone's hands off and like, okay, we're going to lean on the expert, and the rest of us are going to learn through proxy. And that's part of the beauty of the program as well.
Yeah, it's like having a new skill set of strategizing your workload, because you have so much to get done between your regular job and then school. So you're just like, okay, today I could learn a new skill. Tomorrow I can't. Tomorrow I'll the expert go for it.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I think that skill set stays with you through your career too, because that prioritization, the way of like managing a bunch of different deliverables between work and school kind of is a really great skill set that isn't even through MBA. It's just helps you.
Yes. The single biggest thing that I learned was it was the first time in my life that I could not handle it all.
Yep.
So something had to give. And so you quickly learn prioritization. You quickly learn delegation. You quickly learn to be honest about what you can and can't handle. And I don't know when, if it hadn't been at school or school plus work, it would have definitely been at work when I experienced that for the first time in life. So I'm happy to have had this environment where I'm invited to fail.
I like that. It's a good term. Environment where I'm invited to fail. And so you should embrace, it's cool to be able to embrace like making mistakes and learning how to be the best or to be really good at prioritizing and being honest with yourself of what you can handle. Because I feel the same way before Anderson. I felt like, oh yeah, I could take that on. I could take this on. I never really said no to things. And then I realized I can't do that anymore. So it was a good crash course. But it would have happened. I feel like it happens for everybody at some point, that you realize you have to learn to prioritize, and it's nice to be able to do it through the program and with people that support you while you're trying to learn that, because we're all trying to learn it at the same time together. And so it's nice to have that camaraderie, I guess, with your classmates. So besides Anderson, unless there's anything else you want to share from your Anderson time, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about besides work, school, you also are the CFO of the Westminster Chorus for your volunteer work, right?
That's right. So this comes back to the singing. I've always been involved in choral music, and I would say maybe starting in college, but really post-college, started singing actually barbershop quartet music. You'll be familiar with. We do it in chorus format. So instead of 4 people, it's 50 and can get up to over 100 people. I was doing that in Florida, and when I said I was moving to California, all the guys said, well, you have to join this place called the Westminster Chorus. So when I moved out here, I just sent him an email and said, hey, I'm interested in coming out. They're like, okay, yeah, come to rehearsal. And just a few months later, we actually competed internationally at an international competition that was back in Orlando. So just after having moved from Orlando, I went back to Orlando.
You're back there.
Yeah. And I've been with the group ever since, but really enjoy, being in this group. And I was privileged to be asked to join the leadership team, and having the business background that I have, which it's, everybody's coming from a different walk of life in that group. I was asked to take on this role of the CFO, and I didn't know if would I be able to handle it or not. I would say that where it crossed paths with Anderson I was kind of getting overwhelmed by the books, and just that accounting and core class, that was enough to kind of get me over the edge and sealing those things up. But it's been difficult to juggle all of the things between work and school and volunteering, and Lord knows the balance you try and do with your friends and loved ones. But excited now with school being over to be more directly involved with the group again.
Yeah, it's hard with everything, like our whole conversation before, prioritization, and but that's exciting that you get to dive in even further again now that school is done.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So now we're going to go into the section called Undertakes. It's going to be a little bit more quick question and answer. So I'm going to ask you like your favorite, whatever it is about Anderson, and you'll just give me your take. Okay, ready? Best class at Anderson.
All right. So I think our class was kind of partial to our strategy class and core, but I think it's not helpful to students to name a core class, right? To incoming students, prospective students.
That's true.
I'll name two, and they're actually two near the end of where I took when I took them in my studies. One is general management, and it really kind of, in a very technical way, synthesizes some of the pieces from everything else you've learned, and kind of brings back home, these things, but it actually takes an effective communicator and influencer to have these things permeate through the institution and drive results. And then the other one was, I took it in my very last semester, and it was actually, I had already satisfied all my credits, but I wanted to take this class because I learned about it very early on. It's critical milestones in preparing for a lifetime of leadership. Many of our classmates who have taken that class rave about it. It fills up, every year. But it's really just a speaker series of CEO, C-suite level individuals at very influential companies coming in to talk to the class. And it's just access that you don't get anywhere else. I've had a number of classes like that at Anderson, particularly on the entertainment side. But getting to kind of step forward into many of the in business school, many of the folks are shooting for that C-suite, and to be able to step forward in time and talk to people who you don't have access to, and hear their journey and seeing where they start out, and it's just reassuring, like, oh wow, that's I'm not too far off from that, or like I know a number of people who really, that conversations with those individuals gave them the confidence and some of like the extra bit of just approach it this way, and they just had the confidence to kind of pursue those things post graduation.
Amazing.
That wasn't very quick.
No, that's two really good recommendations. It could be as long as you want. Your best memory from FEMBA.
Best memory. You're making it it's too difficult.
I know, it's really hard. There's a lot of good times. Maybe let's do after core.
Well, I was actually, the one I was thinking of was, we were online fully for a year. Mm-hmm. Some people had meetups. I met, at the very end of the first year, went to the end of year party. I would say that, the first time seeing people, whether it was that date or whether it was the first day, our second fall coming back and everyone being in person. That's probably the best memory.
Yeah.
You built these relationships, over Zoom for a year and finally able to see these people in person.
I completely agree. That was probably the best part of the program, just being able to be in person with all these people that you just see in the box for so long. Favorite professor?
They're all my favorite.
Okay. Most memorable case study?
Okay, well, I have to bring up Littlefield because
Yes.
I know it's a very common amongst MBA students, but Caitlin and I were in a group together for Littlefield. We got number one, so that was a special one.
That was a good one.
There is, the one that that like haunts me, that I like, it actually has like created a life lesson at work, and I always think about this, is I won't give away the punchline because I think this is common for, all Anderson students would do it, and other business schools as well. But there's one where there's a racetrack and you have a car and someone's skeptical with the temperature that the car might fail and it's going to be very costly. And it's a live case. It's kind of a simulation type deal where you're meant to come up with this decision in the amount of time allotted, and most people did not. We'll put it that way. And just the lesson of what you should do to overcome that, make sure that doesn't happen. That's the one that's daily. I'm reminded of that one.
Wow, that's really impactful. I want to know the answer now, but we can talk about it later.
The name of it, but I'll show it to you later.
Okay, best core year memory. We kind of hit on that already, but if you have another one, feel free to share. If you want to say be in person, it's up to you.
I guess I'll put, because we had such a unique core year, the various things that happened on Zoom that were shocking.
Yes.
It was a shared experience. Maybe in the moment it wasn't exactly a positive experience, but after the fact, it was nice to have been through an experience like that with people.
It bonded us for sure.
Yes, bonding, that's right.
Okay, so favorite Slack channel?
I tried my hardest to not use Slack. I'm on it enough at work.
Yep.
I would try to stay off it for Anderson. Yeah.
As we talked about, you have to do everyone, you use the tools that make sense for you.
Yeah.
So the last one I have, advice to current or future students.
Okay, so for people considering UCLA, I think the case to make is, as you're making your decisions about which schools to go to or which business schools, or if business school rather. I think, as I was saying, just to kind of summarize what I was saying before, there's no other program out there where everyone's coming from somewhere different and going somewhere different after the fact. And there's really not another time in life that you get that opportunity. That's my case for business school. My case for Anderson is the collaborative, shared success environment. You learn how to be a better team member, and I really just, to be a better person. I think there's just something about the culture. And I think too, for our class, the COVID bonding was something unique. And then for students, admitted students, and presuming you'll, go on to have a Anderson career, my practical advice is you can't do it all. That's okay. Dabble. Quick, get yourself overwhelmed at first, find out what you really want to commit to, and commit to those things, and don't be afraid to change either. Many people or down one path, and they pivoted in the middle. And then, I think a helpful piece of advice, which everyone I'm sure will feel, is it's common to have imposter syndrome at first. Everybody has it. Just work, trust yourself. You're going to work through it and you're going to make it.
Good advice for Anderson and life. I think we all experience imposter syndrome in our careers and our everyday. So don't make it through it. I like that. So any final thoughts? Is there anything we missed that you wanted to talk about?
You didn't ask me anything about Anderson Cafe.
Oh, what are your thoughts on the Anderson Cafe? It's really important. Favorite dish?
Favorite dish is probably, a hot coffee. Oh, pro tip, you can order via the mobile app. For those unfamiliar with the UCLA campus, there are these little robots that deliver food all around campus, which I don't actually understand because the whole campus is stairs. So I've never seen how that works out. But anyway, the robot delivery app also has a pickup option. So you can mobile order and beat the line.
That is a really good tip. I've actually never used the robots, and I should have, because there was a lot of waiting online or having to leave the line because I had to get to class.
Yes, that's common.
That is common. You know what? I do have one other question for you about your Disney career. Favorite part of Orlando Park and favorite part of the California parks? World versus land.
So I love, it's actually the hotels I've been fortunate enough to stay at all the Disney hotels in the US, with the exception of the one in Hawaii. But I really love the resort hopping at Walt Disney World. And if I have to name a favorite resort, I'd say the Polynesian. At Disneyland, it is the charm. We like to remind people that it was Walt's park. It was the only one that he had a hand in building at Disneyland. And I just love the old feel. And, we have the privilege at where I work in particular, we work just behind the Disneyland park. And so we get to walk into the park and stroll through the park and see the guests enjoying their day. It's a special place.
It really is. It makes you happiest place on earth, right? But it does make you happy. But I love the Disney World hotels because I grew up on the East Coast. So we went to Disney World a lot. Those hotels are just magical to, really use all the Disney words. But they truthfully are magical.
Beat the heat for sure.
That is very true. Well, I want to call up Dylan to the stage, the virtual stage, and tell us your thoughts, Dylan, as we wrap up this podcast.
Let me find the right button. Can you see me yet?
We can see you and we can hear you.
Oh, okay. You can see me. Okay. I can see myself too. Oh my gosh. Wow. Adam, thank you. It was worth the wait. I know we had to reschedule a couple times. It's been a busy summer. You're the final. Well, I get to interview Caitlin next, but you're the last of the 6 nominees, and then we're going to complete the series where I get to interview the interviewer. But you're inspiring. I'm like, I want to raise my sons to be like Adam.
Right?
I'm like, you're so steady and calm, and you integrate. I hear a lot of integration in your entire approach. And yet you're this really and in parallel, you're this really high achiever, like with the double majors, but even the double majors were integrated because math and music and you go to singing, but you learn accounting while you want Disney, and then you have to broaden your skill set to give yourself mobility within Disney, and you request to come across the country, and then you get deeper into art and music by joining Westminster Chorus. So anyway, and the fact that you all got to be group mates for 3 quarters, yeah, I think that's statistically pretty rare.
Yeah. I
Um,
think we're the only ones that it happened with.
yeah, yeah. I just, if I, as a parent, I have a 16-year-old and 11-year-old, but I like your circumspect approach to life. And you're reminding me of one of my best friends from Texas A&M. He grew up in Muleshoe, which is out, south of Lubbock and there were like 12 people in his high school. So probably made Central Illinois look like, very, very busy. But his name's John Harlan, and he went on to a military career, and now he's like a consultant. And but he just, I think he had a different energy, just because I think he grew up in a very calm environment. His parents were a little bit older also, I think. But I'm listening and I'm just thinking, oh my God, my kids are going to be like little popcorn rabbits compared to Adam's so solid, right?
I failed to mention that I adopted the speech pattern of my father as well.
Yeah.
Very meager.
Well, and Caitlin was so thorough, but the one thing I think from some of our preparatory stuff, if you could just, you had appreciated Sarah Tucker and leadership at Anderson. Could you put a little spotlight on that, maybe?
Yeah, leadership at Anderson. It's an interesting program that's it's parallel to any curriculum. But it's, at least at the time when I did it, it was a separately admitted program, but it's really, the admission is based on your own commitment to yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of an executive coaching program that lets you work on, you're paired with a coach, lets you work on whatever it is you want to work on in your leadership journey. And if you don't know what that is, they'll help you find out what that is. Like I said, I came from this analytics side, and the cold hard numbers side. I needed to tap into myself and in a more in a personal way, and with relationships and leveraging the things that maybe I was told at some point in my life, these are things that you're not good at, or you should lean on these and not these, and being given the option to explore, actually, those are my intuition. I'm not deficient in those things. I just haven't been given myself the permission to explore things in this way, or just by nature of where I grew up, that's not the approach of things. And so Sarah Tucker, she was my coach. She's since retired from the institution. But she was, perfectly paired. I don't know if that was intentional on the part of, those assigning the coaches, but she was exactly what I needed at that time in my career to kind of unlock the things, unlock my potential to operate in the way I needed to operate for myself and for my career. And ultimately, I chose to just do that first year of leadership at Anderson. Many people did it all 3 years, but it's a program that I was very, very happy that I took part in, and would recommend it to students who go through the program.
And I think it actually grew, especially the Matt Gorlick component during COVID. It really came up, I think, in almost all of our interviews for the summer spotlights. And
Matt Gorlick's name is just went for like every single one.
Yeah, and I think
it had such a big impact on everybody.
I think it's worth mentioning too, for those considering the program now, it's kind of, I said it was parallel to the curriculum. Well, it's actually now it's part of a specialization. So it wasn't what we went through, but now it is integrated in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you took the Peter Guber class also?
Yes, that was the critical milestones in preparing for a lifetime of leadership. So
perfect. Okay.
It was, didn't want to name drop too much, but if you brought him up, he really is the treasure of that class. For anybody unfamiliar, I would recommend you look him up. You won't have trouble finding him, but to have access to somebody of his caliber, and then by extension, his contacts, I mean, it's kind of unreal that you kind of get proxy to that through taking his classes.
We'll give people a thumbnail, like he's the owner of X, Y, and Z. Just
Owner of Golden State Warriors and the Dodgers, I think, and current CEO of Mandalay Entertainment, which is they make films. Most recently, the Air movie, the Air Jordans, and a ton of movies from 80s and 90s that are Academy Award level films, and was the CEO of Sony for a while. So just a long career, and so much. His big thing is storytelling, and he is able to distill so much of what he's collected over his long career into memorable and bite-sized statements of life, to just think about leadership and relationships.
Incredible.
Well, speaking of writing a story, so now Caitlin and I like to do this. We either pull out things from your nomination, or I like to pull out things from your admission essay. So you can say, did it happen? Yes or no. So I'll just read a couple sentences I highlighted. So this is from your application essay. I hope this is okay to share. I think it was very lovely.
If it's not, you can cut it.
All right, that's right.
Sure,
So you started with, I am a creative problem solver, continually motivated to pursue the next interesting challenge. It's like, yeah.
Done.
You had that self-awareness, and that's, here we go. As an artist, I seek the thrill of making beautiful music with others. In all my pursuits, I strive for excellence. My long-term goal is to work in studio sales and marketing analytics at an executive level with an international scope, leading a diverse team of forward-thinking leaders. The role I aspire to eventually hold is very similar to that of Reggie Penaligan's Anderson 2010 former role as SVP of Research and Analytics at Paramount. As for my own path in these roles in the film industry, I seek an MBA to complement my background in analytics. I look forward to contributing to Anderson's collaborative culture. My background in travel and tourism analytics and my experience as CFO of my nonprofit Chorus bring a unique perspective to classroom discussion. So even Caitlin can validate. So
1000% true.
Yeah, and I share that, I've been joking to everybody. This is the last year that we read essays written by humans. They're all going to be AI from here. But, the thing that AI will never be able to replicate is to look deep into our own self and to look forward to what we uniquely would ever aspire to. AI will say nice things, but, if I could underline some of the themes of your story that Caitlin brought out so well for current and future students, you can't do it all. There is too much. You benefit from learning how to turn a me career into a we career. Learn how to delegate. You learn how to say no. You learn how to prioritize. But you do it, with an outlook of appreciation of others. And I think you really articulated well the life you'd lived up to Anderson, the math and the music and the love of Disney. And then Anderson for you was an opportunity to enhance. You didn't need a big pivot. You'd actually already built a very high quality life. And yet there were elements of aspiration. You wanted to raise your trajectory. And, it appears to me you did that. So, kudos to you for having the self-awareness, taking the time. Is what I always suggest to folks when they apply. Don't pretend it's just a hurdle. There's actually my resume. Who would I choose as recommenders? Where have I been? Where would I like to go? And why would this particular degree? There's many graduate choices in life, but why this one? Why this school? Why this modality? With the keep my job and apply it while I learn it. So it's not just to get admitted. Getting admitted is not the most important thing. It's choosing an environment that will nurture you uniquely to be the you that life would ever hope you could become.
I'm glad you said that, because I didn't say anything to that degree of, you have to find what's right for you. I think, there were the circumstances of working full time, wanting to stay with Disney. There's not a ton of schools that I have, to choose from to do those things. And so I had a small sample set, but I know many people considering business school have a much, much larger consideration set. And I think, it's hard when you're in that place to say, this is not just about getting admitted. This is really about finding what's right for me.
Mhm.
But that's excellent advice. I would second that to anyone who's working on an application for any school. There was something else that you said in there. Go ahead and go on, and if I can think of it, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that ideal even goes to like job applications and beyond. I mean, just in your life to find what's right for you. And when you're, pursuing new endeavors, just stick true to like, be honest with yourself.
The book that I want to write so that I could ever afford to send my kids to someplace like USC for undergrad, where Caitlin went. I want to write a book that sort of, has fun comparing the job search process to the process of finding one's significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever flavor significant other works for you. I always remind myself, I don't need 3 wives. I need one really good wife who likes me and maybe will keep me around for the long haul. And, my MBA, I had 36 no's before I got my one and only yes out of Chicago. And yet that first role included a rotation. I got to go to Silicon Valley. I got to go to the world headquarters in Munich for 3 years. I'd probably still be working for Siemens if it weren't for 9/11, right? That just, this whole group we were with, the change management team, just got let go. And then I fell in love, and she wanted to come to LA. I followed her versus going to a corporate holding in New Jersey. It all worked out. But, if you had to go through 36 no's to get a really good yes, right? And that process of discernment, sometimes people, they get into, you did not do the career search thing, but many people who choose to do the career search thing as part of their MBA journey, they get nervous, they get that kind of scarcity mentality. And I think they make choices that are suboptimal, the same way all of us have done in a relationship from time to time, where, well, she looks good on paper and all my friends think she's awesome. But, when everyone else leaves, do we have enough in common to build a high quality life journey together? I think you could write a book that could encourage people to be a little more discerning in both of those endeavors, dating and career navigation. I love the confidence that people get from an MBA. You get smarter, you get a better network, but sometimes you get more confident. And I don't know, Adam, you strike me as somebody who walked in pretty darn confident, but I'm seeing you from the outside. But I think if you let the MBA journey be transformative, one of the bigger takeaways is that confidence. And you said it even early in one of your answers to Caitlin about applying the core classes to think more rigorously, to make bigger suggestions when you guys were kind of reinventing yourself post or during and post COVID. Like you had the circumstance or the happy accident of, happy accident's the wrong way to say it, but COVID and your year one core and Disney's parks being closed all happened to stack on each other and then infuse each other with, like, right now, real-time lessons. And then you had the confidence to, I don't have my MBA yet, I'm in my first year, and yet this is applicable, and I'm going to open my mouth, raise my hand, and be a leader.
I think, you said something too about me to, transition from me to we, or, build the mindset from me to we. That's what that environment was, right? It's, there were many on furlough, many laid off, right? And it was, in that moment, it's not helpful for the company or ultimately yourself to worry about yourself. That is what it is. It's how can we work together to get ourselves out of this hole that we're in as best as possible. And, you know, I think that transition of mindset that you're talking about and what what you wrote or read that I wrote earlier in the application is looking for the next creative problem solver, looking for the next challenge. I think career outlook, you know, how am I seeing my career post MBA? The challenge is that which I find challenging is a different set than what I would have thought it was going in. And not in a bad way, not in a good way, and maybe not even in a way that business school changed, but just working on those problems, working through those problems with other people, more unstructured problems, and, you know, more into the future, you know, harder to anticipate. That's the thing that is, you know, the current challenge on the, you know, in my career progression. And those are the types of situations that you talk about in school, right? I mean, these are the simulations that we do in class with case studies and, you know, talking about the competence to speak up and, you know, have bolder ideas. You know, business school, you practice every day, you know, you don't know what these cases, you know, it feels like most of the time the response you give is not what they were looking for, but you learn to have an opinion, you learn to back up your facts, you learn that the response of, if you give a well thought out answer, regardless of what the right answer was, if there is a right answer, people respect the attempt, they respect, you know, the effort that you put into it, and the ramifications. There's not negative ramifications for being wrong, and taking that back, you know, just experiencing that and being able to take that back to the workplace. It's transformative experience.
Noah Goldstein's been on the faculty committee for 4 years. I think he's going on sabbatical, but he loves grit, and he loves to get in and read the essays and get the backstory. And and when you said it's okay to dabble, it's okay to get overwhelmed, it's okay to trust yourself, you know, grit goes a long way. And, you know, we do learn as much from failure, if not more. And, you know, I loved how you articulated that you each articulated, right? Like, this really was a laboratory in the experiment called, I can't do it anymore all myself. And, you know, and you were both asking, I don't know if there's any other place in life that forces you. And I was thinking to myself, having kids did it.
I was going to say kids.
I know, but
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, same.
But it's like FEMBA is giving yourself a life promotion that only you're aware that you got.
Yeah.
You know, but you earn a seat in a school like this because you have high standards and ideals and a great work ethic. You put yourself in this environment on purpose. And then this environment attempts to destroy your sense of self. At least that was my MBA. Like, I went from being big man on campus to, I'm like the slowest, shortest, least prepared. You know, I had imposter syndrome the entire time. And yet I had the opportunity to develop some grit, you know, and, you know, so graduate school as a transformative opportunity, you don't have to create it that way. You can play it safe and quote unquote, just get the education, but having a whole experience, taking the time to be a dependable classmate in the team setting, you know, you like your example of really going for it with the Global Access Program, have that capstone be what it's designed to be, which is an MBA within the MBA. You know, so you get the double benefit of the MBA overall and, you know, this intense 6-month nonprofit consulting engagement with a diverse group of peers, self-selected. You know, that's, you want to run a political campaign later in life, you know, you want to do your nonprofit, your pro bono work, you know, because you chose to really roll up your sleeves. You know, you're taking away more than just the bare minimum UCLA Anderson MBA. You're getting that whole picture. And I'm just trying to underline some of the themes, because to my way of thinking, when Caitlin and I were, when Caitlin did all the work to run the survey and collect the nominations, it was so exciting to read the nominations and to because you are the largest class FEMBA ever had. You're probably the largest class we'll ever have. So there was 6 people nominated, and Caitlin's sifting through this mass of very complimentary as we try to articulate, okay, well, who really won? And, you know, and I really wanted to kind of underline, I think your peers chose you for who you were before and your beginner's mind and willingness to grow yet to another expression of yourself during. And that would be my advice for people. You know, don't act like you know it all. If you know it all, then you're wasting your time and money.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the beginning of the program, someone was giving advice that stuck with me. It was just, you know, take what interests you. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. Don't be scared to take a challenging class. Like, don't just take the easier, I will say, because I don't think any of it's easy, but easier route. Make sure you're doing things to expand and what, like Adam's been saying, what, you know, is best for you on your journey. But definitely don't let imposter syndrome, because it's a good thing to be surrounded by people that are smarter than you, that have different perspectives, that are better at certain skill sets than you are, and going into those classes and learning, because that's how you grow. And you're not going to grow otherwise if you're just doing things you're good at.
I would say, you know, we were fortunate. I'm sure this is part of the admission, you know, ultimately part of the admission is you don't want to admit people who believe they're smarter than other people. I was just going to, you know, my conclusion is I didn't find that we had any of those in our program.
Yeah.
But what I would, you know, characterize in the classroom discussion, right, is let's just presume nobody had the answers, right? Most of us are studying new things, and some of the core you can test out if you know the subject. What I found is that because it's such a diverse backgrounds of people, I would, you know, almost all the questions I would hear are questions I wouldn't have even thought of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not because I knew the answer, but because I just never would have even thought about it that way. And you just don't get exposed to things like that naturally. Yeah,
even in your career, like something that you're really good at, right? Where someone's asking a question about it and you're like, oh, wait, that's how, like, I'm in marketing and obviously took marketing classes, but that's how somebody who doesn't have a marketing background thinks. And those are important things to bring to the table too. Yeah, so I think it's interesting, even in something that is in your field of expertise. Exactly. That you might not think of something of how other people see it. And a lot of getting your MBA is being able to work better with cross-functionals and being able to explain what you do and articulate it and be able to work together to create bigger impact to your business. So it's exciting that you get that experience to see, like, how do I communicate to somebody who has no idea what marketing is, what, you know, how to do analytics for you, and like, how do you explain that to somebody who's never had exposure to that world? And hearing people's questions, even on subjects that you're familiar with, helps you be able to bridge that better.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to this, and then I can do this all night, so I'll start to wrap up too. But, okay. But I loved when, like, about the 22-minute mark, you said MBAs come from different places and go different places. And there's a value of crossing paths. And you saw that you're happy with the path that you're on. And you never got a chance like that in life. In GAP 2, a microcosm of a professional career. The best part of FEMBA is different people coming into your life and learning from them. You know, I liked your capture of, you know, because that's not, you don't get unit credit for that component of your journey. And yet that was a part of your journey. And you know, again, for people who are considering business school or already admitted, it's a different graduate degree. It really is, you know, and I've heard so many professors, the senior professors to visiting, you know, just, if we're doing our job right, you'll learn just as much from each other as you learn from us at the front of the room. And I thought you did a really great job of articulating that. And then a microcosm of a professional career. Like if you go through Disney with that sort of same beginner's mind, learning agility, you know, and that forming, storming, norming, performing, right? You get to practice it here, and then you just go iterate over and over and over for the next couple of decades. Oh, the places you'll go, you know, the people you'll meet, the lives you'll get to change as a leader in a modern company where you have to be able to pivot, make big decisions, deal with ambiguity, all the stuff the MBA gets you ready for.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, Caitlin, I'll let you have the last word. Great job.
Boy.
Great job.
I can't believe this is my last time with the mic, Dylan. I'm going to be handing it back over. But thank you, Adam. Thank you for your flexibility. I mean, we talk so much about adaptability for everything here in career, and thank you for being adaptable and flexible for putting this for our reschedules that we had to do.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful getting to know even more about your background that I didn't know, and I think your perspective and advice is going to really help current students and prospective students and admitted students who are coming to Anderson to be able to navigate, especially as if, you know, if they want to do a enhancing career, and even if they want to do anything else, like how to focus, how to be determined, and how to have a good work ethic going through this program and navigating your career, as well as just being inspired by your story. You have a really inspiring story. So thank you for sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And, you know, for anyone listening who's considering Anderson, you know, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to help you, you know, with your decision.
All right. Well, I will hit stop, and we will let this recording come to a conclusion. And I just would like to echo, you know, Adam, thank you for accepting the nomination. Thanks for being vulnerable and being willing to talk about yourself professionally in a recorded setting on behalf of people who could benefit learning from your journey. And Caitlin, it's been so much fun these last few months.
It has been.
I was really trying to woo Caitlin into this role, and she's so busy personally, professionally, new job, new life. I can't wait to interview you, Caitlin, but I've learned a lot from watching your approach to these interviews. I love storytelling. I am not trained in it. It's just a passion. But you know, I think stories, I'm really coming to, my mom has a quote, our opinions often divide us, but our stories connect us. And, you know, sharing a story and sharing a story well really is a connecting endeavor. And, you know, you've really helped 6 stories be told well through some circumstances you yourself were balancing. So Caitlin, it's just been super fun. And I can't wait then we'll wrap this up. I'll get to interview you, and then we'll have an entire 7-person series for the class of 23 spotlights. So Adam, thank you. Caitlin, thank you.
Adam. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you both.